On my last video about the alleged CEO shooter Luigi Mangione, a lot of you started to raise questions about the backpack photos released by the NYPD, and some of you are even alleging, hey, it looks like maybe they switched backpacks because they don't look like it's the same backpack. Backpack. So in this video, along with some other things, we're going to analyze whether the police, could it be that the police would have switched that backpack, and are they the same backpack? Did they arrest the wrong man? But first, we're going to look at some news that happened yesterday. Before we look into this issue of the backpack and whether it was switched or not, so we're going to take a look at this news that came out yesterday because the feds flew Luigi Mangione into New York City. I want to show you that, and I want to show you the federal indictment real quick. So I wanted to show you this in case you hadn't seen it. So this is right when he landed in New York City after the feds took control of him, and they're going to take him over to the federal courthouse now. And check this out. This is so funny. This is like the longest perp walk in history. They're really trying to milk this. And notice how they have that other helicopter over there, which is completely unnecessary. And it's sort of sitting there at an angle, and the whole scene looks like it was, just set up perfectly. So they're walking him over there to show him to the mayor. And now they're turning him around and walking him back. So this is the longest perp walk in history. They're really wanting to over milk this. So there's the mayor right there. You can see him right there, African-American man, bald, with the gray scarf on and the long overcoat there in the back on the left side of the screen, right by the tail of the helicopter there. That's the mayor. And they're just slowly doing that nice long perp walk. Normally a perp walk is like, 20 feet from the squad car into the courthouse or something, but man, you can almost make a pay-per-view special out of this one, folks. So they're walking him along there, and watch what happens when he gets by these windows. So apparently there's a lot of people in this building. I'm not exactly sure which building this was or exactly where they were at the harbor. See the people on the other side? They're all taking pictures and they're looking and everything. So they got a nice view right there. And Luigi's probably soaking all this up. He's loving the attention. He's got to be loving this for sure, man. He's got more security detail around him, more than even Donald Trump. And I know a lot of people are going to question that. Why is there so many police? Well, first, all of them probably wanted to get their hands on a piece of the pie. But also, there was word that, there might be somebody trying to break him out. There was so many people online supporting him, sending him bail money. They wanted to make sure somebody doesn't come and bust him out. And then see the sign there on the van that says all occupants must be secured with a seatbelt. You know what that's for? That's CYA right there, in case they decide to give this guy a bumpy ride to the jail, if you know what I mean. Cops have been known to do that sometimes in the past. Okay, so let's have a look at the charges that were unsealed yesterday in the federal court. So this right here is count 1, stalking, travel, and interstate commerce. So next we have count 2, which is stalking and use of interstate facilities. So this here means what they're saying here. He used a cell phone, interstate wires, highways, and the internet to plan and carry out the stalking, shooting, and killing of Brian Thompson in the vicinity, blah, blah, blah. So there's your count 2. And then count 3, of course, is murder through the use of a firearm. And then count 4 is another firearm offense, and this is probably going to be for using the suppressor or silencer, as some people call it. Now let's see how they worded it. It says here, he knowingly used and carried a firearm, and in furtherance of such crimes, possessed a firearm which was brandished and discharged, and which was equipped with a firearm silencer and firearm muffler. So now we have 3 different terms used for the same thing. Some people call it a muffler, some people call it a silencer, some people call it a suppressor. Most people who are gun experts tend to call it the suppressor. And I believe that was all of the counts, but they also revealed some pictures in their investigation that we hadn't seen before. So we've all seen this, of course, the fake ID that he allegedly used to check into the hostel. And there's the pictures they released of the suspect at the hostel. But here's one we hadn't seen before. So this picture here was taken outside the hostel. Now, this is how they know that he left the hostel at 5:35 a.m. in the morning. And there he goes. There he was captured on another street camera riding down towards Central Park, on his way down to the Hilton. This right here is another street camera that they caught him on 55th Street. So this is 1 block away from the shooting. As you recall, I mentioned he ran through that plaza after the shooting and hopped on this e-bike and starts to ride here now down to Central Park. And then here's another picture that we hadn't seen before. This is one where it shows how they know when he left Central Park. So here he is at 6:58 a.m. And then the security camera, another one, captured the alleged CEO shooter exiting Central Park up at 77th Street and heading west. And here, again, you can see he's not wearing that backpack any longer because he ditched it inside Central Park. And, of course, the police later found it. Then, of course, a couple of minutes later, this other famous picture where he's in the cab. And, of course, his backpack there. Now, here's another picture that they released. We hadn't seen this one because the picture I've showed you before was just the gun in the box. And a lot of people were saying, oh, this is fake. Where's the silencer? Well, just because the silencer wasn't in the original cropped picture that we were sent before doesn't mean they didn't get the silencer. They got the silencer. And the police did say that the silencer, the gun, it was all 3D printed. So there's your silencer or suppressor or muffler, however you want to refer to it. And I'm sure everybody in the world is going to leave comments below correcting me on what's the correct version. Everybody wants it to be called their dogmatic version. And let's see, was there any other pictures? And that was it for the pictures. So there's the full federal indictment, 10 pages long. And then, of course, in addition to those federal charges, now New York City has chimed in with their official charges. And this just came out yesterday on December 19th, 2024. The grand jury of New York, they, by this indictment, are officially charging Luigi Mangione as the CEO shooter with murder in the first degree. And it is interesting how up until even yesterday, the district attorney wasn't really telling us whether he was going to escalate it above murder 2. So let's go see what count 2 is now. So count 2 is murder in the second degree as a crime of terrorism. Also, so it's murder in the first degree here. And as you can see here, what they were saying is that he had intent to cause death of another person, that he caused the death of Brian Thompson, and he was killed in furtherance of an act of terrorism. So that's what makes it first degree here. And also, were intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. Okay, so now the second count here is murder in the second degree as a crime of terrorism. It says here that the defendant with intent to intimidate or coerce a population, blah, 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 and also with the intent to cause the death of another person, Brian Thompson. And then we're down to the third count right here. And again, it's another one, murder in the second degree, because this one here is just simply the intent to cause the death of another person. So this one will catch the case that doesn't catch the terrorism part right above it. So there's two different versions of the second degree murder here. The fourth count right here is criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree. Of course, the gun, they found him in possession of a gun when he was arrested, but they know that he also had it in New York here, if he is indeed the CEO shooter who committed the crime. So that is what they are indicting him for. And then the fifth count you got right here is criminal possession of a weapon of the second degree. Now, what this sort of means, this is kind of another tricky part of the law. He possessed a loaded firearm not being in the defendant's home or place of business. So he took it out in public. Now, the sixth count here is also related to the weapon. It is a criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree, and they're calling it an assault weapon. Now, people were going to always argue about whether a gun is an assault weapon or whether the rifle, like the AK type rifle, is an assault weapon. But I think you're going to see, based on what they found with the mags, that they're going to try to treat it as an assault weapon. So that's the seventh count here. And in the seventh count, it says criminal possession in the third degree. It says he possessed a firearm silencer. Now, this is where a lot of people are going to try to come in and correct. You know, some people call it a silencer. Some people call it a muffler. Some people call it a suppressor. Here on the eighth count, it says criminal possession in the third degree again. And right here's the problem, what they're saying. He possessed a large capacity ammunition device, to wit, a Glock magazine. Now, they didn't say what the specific limit is and how far he went above the limit as to how many shell casings that thing will hold, as to how many shells that the mag is supposed to hold and how many his held. Now, if he 3D printed it, he could have made it to hold, a couple of dozen. We just don't know how many was in there. And then on the 9th count here, it's the same type of thing. And this one was a different one. He had a large capacity feeding device known as the Magpul magazine. And then he had a 10th count. So, here originally we thought there was only going to be 4 or 5 charges from New York. So now we're already on 10 counts. We get criminal possession of a weapon in the 4th degree. And this here is the ghost gun. So for those of you wondering, and maybe you've heard the term, maybe you haven't, a ghost gun is a gun that's manufactured without a serial number, which means it can't be traced. Those are illegal. I don't even know if you can legally own one. There may be a special permitting process or something, but as far as we know, he didn't even have that. But certainly, he's not an official licensed manufacturer and should not be making a gun without serial numbers. So that's why this charge is here. And then the 11th count that New York City charged him with is criminal possession of a forged instrument in the 2nd degree. Now, they go on this long kind of soliloquy here about intent to defraud and deceive and blah, blah, blah. But really what they're talking about is this forged New Jersey driver's license, which I showed you in the previous video. This is the license that he used to check in originally in the hostel in New York City on November 24th, using a fake ID. That's basically what he was doing, is using a fake ID. And when the police captured him at McDonald's in Pennsylvania, he was carrying that exact same ID, which was an unbelievably foolish mistake to make. So now you're probably wondering, okay, why are they charging him with 1st-degree murder and with 2nd-degree murder? Isn't it either or? Well, this is a pretty good strategy that's used by the prosecution. It's sort of like throwing a smart bomb or casting a wide fishing net and try to see what you can get up in there, what you can collect into your net. So the issue here is that if they can get him on 1st-degree murder, they will. But let's say the jury finds that there's reasonable doubt, it's not proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, but then maybe it's easier to prove the 2nd degree. So you charge him with both. So the reason why he's charged with 1st degree is because of the alleged premeditation and the terrorism, which is him trying to coerce a group of people, or in his case, trying to put the fear of God into all of the healthcare people. So now all of these CEOs have scrambled to try to get armed guards now to protect them. So that's the terrorism part. And then 2nd-degree murder would be like almost unintentional. It's like you probably knew somebody was probably going to get killed, right? But hey, I pointed my gun at him and yeah, I shot him. I had no idea he was going to die, Or sometimes, during the commission of a felony, somebody might die and it was unintentional, but you could still get blamed and be held accountable for it. So 2nd-degree murder provides a little bit more teeth in the accountability department there that allows them to charge you with that. So as we look through these comments on my last video, you can see here, someone here is saying, why is no one questioning the brown jacket, the light-colored strap, the backpack image compared to the green jacket, black strap, backpack image? The backpack found in the park has black straps. Well, I don't think they're entirely correct about that, but we'll check on that in a second. A number of people here are also trying to say it's not him, simply because this guy does not seem to be in pain. If he's supposed to have a back injury that needed surgery, he would not be riding back so easily and fast. And then here's another one here too. If the 2 pics of him with a backpack are from the same day, then it is not him. The shoulder straps on the pictures are different. They are 2 different backpacks. Plus, didn't he ditch the backpack somewhere? How is it that he is found with another backpack at McDonald's? Now, when I see a question like that, and a number of people have asked this question as well, I'm like, I just cringe, because the most uninformed questions, to the point that I think these are just antagonizers. They ask, how did he get this backpack at McDonald's? Well, let's see. He was on the run for 5 days. He could have done a whole bunch of shopping in those 5 days. Of course, he bought another backpack. Or maybe he had one hidden somewhere. Maybe he had a whole stash of stuff hidden somewhere in Pennsylvania. We'll never know. Maybe it'll come out in the trial. Who knows? People here are still asking, why does he have two different jackets and two different backpacks from the picture in the hostel? Well, I'll tell you why. Because both pictures were taken 10 days apart. One picture is when he was checking in at the hostel on November 24th. The other picture is when he was actually the day of the shooting. So when you go to shoot somebody, don't you bring a change of clothes with you? If you're going to stay somewhere for 10 days, don't you bring more than one outfit with you? Or if you go back and, for example, take a look here when he was checking in at the hostel, and I'm assuming that this was taken 10 days before the day he checked in. People are saying, how come here the backpack strap is black, but in the other pictures it's gray? It's not the same one, blah, blah, blah. But, well, first of all, this doesn't even look like a backpack. This looks more like a day bag that's slung over his shoulder. So that's why you see a black strap. Because where is the other backpack strap if he did indeed have one? And this is black. That's what it looks like to me anyway. This, whatever this bag is, this little day bag, this doesn't look big enough to be a backpack. So the people that were claiming that, well, look at the backpack that he had when he was at the hostel, this isn't even a backpack. Their argument is dissolved at this point. And then here, of course, when you compare the backpack that was found at Central Park, I can see where everybody would say, yeah, the straps are black, but this is the interior side of the strap that touches your body. The outside of it is the same ash-colored gray that this is here on the rest of the fabric. Even my rucking vest here is blue. When you look at it on the outside, you would think it's blue on the straps, but if you were to find it abandoned in Central Park and the cops show a picture like this, somebody would say, look at this. It's not the same vest. Look, yeah, because this one here has tan straps, but the one that we saw on the suspect was this color. So that's how you easily explain that kind of stuff. I mean, really, people, do we need to dumb this down with the backpacks here? Backpack. And how a guy could show up at a McDonald's with a new backpack? And the conspiracy theory people, they're all kind of just, throwing something at the wall and see what sticks here. They just make up stuff. You can't take two unrelated points, try to smack them together and say, oh, he has a new backpack, therefore it's got to be a conspiracy. Backpack. And so, I mean, this does look to me to be about the same color. I don't see why people are claiming that at the time that he shot the CEO, that he was wearing a light colored backpack. The color looks to be around the same to me. It's like a light to medium gray. They call it ash. So I'm not buying any of the stories that people are saying that this is not the same backpack. Now, when you look at the shooting scene here, the CEO shooter is standing there and you can see the backpack, and it might look a little bit lighter just because you have this kind of diffused bright street lighting and it's putting really bright highlights on there. In fact, if you look at the top of his head and his shoulders, they look like a different shade than the jacket. They don't really look black, do they? But compare that to the image from Central Park of the backpack that the police found, and they used their professional flash, which lights it up a perfectly white light there so that you can see the backpack in its actual color without any aberrations. And then here, when he's at the Starbucks, this is about probably half hour or so before the shooting, you can see the outside of these straps match that ash color. Try to look for landmarks on here. You got the brown section right here. You have the backpack straps here that match the ash color of the backpack itself, but underneath they're black, as they are with almost all backpack straps. And then here, when you look at the Crime Stop photo that the NYPD put out, here he is standing there shooting at the CEO, and he's wearing the backpack. And there it is. See, it's that medium gray ash colored. There's that brown stripe on there. Remember that landmark I told you to look for? And then there's your two straps, and they are that gray ash on the outside, but the underside of them is black. So right after the murder, when the police found the backpack there in Central Park and they published the photos of it, Peter Daring, who's the CEO of Peak Design, that's the manufacturer of this backpack in San Francisco, he saw it and he goes, oh, hey, let me call the cops. So he notified the authorities. That's one of our old bags. We stopped making it in 2019. We don't make them anymore, but that is one of our bags. And that's the only information they said that they gave to the cops. But for some dumb reason, and again, this is where this woke nonsense keeps coming in. People all over online are criticizing them and calling him a snitch. People have actually called and made threats to him and his employees. So like those people need to be tracked down and arrested. And don't think you can get away with that. If you were thinking of pulling a stunt like that, I would highly suggest against that. Because we've already had a lady here in Florida the other day that got arrested for just making a very slight but yet definite threat. She said, delay, defend, oppose. And then she said, you people are next, when she was on the phone to somebody from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So she got picked up. And if you think that the cops aren't taking this serious, they are. I can tell you, even for years here in Florida, teenage boys all the time are arrested for making terroristic threats, calling or making a post on social media saying, I'm going to go do something like this at this school. I'm going to go do this at my school and that kind of thing. Yeah, they're arresting 14-year-old boys for it. They will definitely come and arrest you. So if you go over here to Peak Design's website, this sort of looks like the backpack. The problem is it's not really the backpack. So a lot of people took to social media and were posting saying, oh, it's their everyday backpack. Well, it is, but it's an older model. So it's not the current one that you see on the website. So a lot of people are erroneously saying it's this 20L. Some people are saying it's the 30L. Well, it's neither because it's not made anymore. So I'll show you which one it is. If you go to the used section of their website, you can find one. See, it's the Everyday Backpack V1 is pretty much what I think is the most likely one here. And let's see, here's a gray one right here, an ash one. So this is likely the actual sample of the backpack. Unless whoever bought it kept the serial number on it, they have no way of tracing it to whoever purchased it. And so all of those people that took to social media calling, well, this guy's a snitch, blah, 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 he's giving away the customer's information. Those are all, as far as we can tell right now, 100% lie. They don't know who the customer is of that unless they registered that serial number when they bought it. Now, it's possible he did or whatever, but they said they're not giving out any information. So unless they get a court order or a subpoena, they haven't given out any information. And they also had to clarify their privacy policy because of that. They came here and made an official statement. It says right here, they have not provided customer information to the police and would only do so under a subpoena. And they can't associate a serial number with a customer unless that customer has voluntarily registered the product to their site. So really, people, all of these online threats that you're making and stuff like that, that has to stop. There's no justification for it. And for an adult to go online and do something like that is just so unbelievably juvenile. Okay, you have a problem with the healthcare system. Hey, so do we. So do I. I'm actually a customer of United Health, and I don't like the fact that my rates have gone shooting up. But you know what? You don't solve the problem by killing people or threatening people. That's like just criminal activity. You solve the problem by hitting them where it hurts the most, in their wallet. The two best ways you can hold somebody accountable is either by their wallet or by their freedom. And what I mean by that, by freedom, is if you really think they did something criminal, if you really think they ripped you off or stole from you, then you can have them charged criminally. Or you can sue them and get money that way. You know, they call it bad faith. You can sue for 6 times damages. Or in my case, I'm just going to take my business elsewhere. I'm going to go find cheaper insurance because I'm not going to keep on paying. I'm paying $4,200 a month right now, folks. And that's like 3 times a mortgage payment for some people right there. And it just doesn't, it's not worth giving them $48,000 a year, okay, when you're not even collecting a tenth of that every month for any kind of services or surgery or anything. And I know people always say, yeah, but what about when you have a heart attack? Then it's $500,000. Well, okay. So 2 years ago, I was only paying $2,000 a month. And then it jumped up to $3,400. That's more than a 50% increase right there. So that's, more than a 50% raise for them. Now, let me ask you guys something. How much was your raise this year? Did you get a 50% raise? Did you even get a 30% raise? Have you noticed that all of your insurance has gone shooting through the roof? And I can understand that everybody's hitting the boiling point, but you got to stop when it gets to the point that you're now committing violence. And as it turns out, the police said that Luigi Mangione wasn't even a customer of United Healthcare at all. So that makes this even more bizarre, because why would you pick this guy? He never did anything like personally to him. Okay, maybe he doesn't like his ideology. Maybe he's sitting back and he's watching and he's seeing, yeah, there was issues, there was lawsuits, there was charges brought up against them for insider trading and stuff like that. But still, why does that mean that he has to appoint himself God and decide that he's the one that has to go and take care of this guy? That's why I don't understand why so many people are supporting him. So keep those questions coming, folks, and we'll try to answer them for you. And we'll see all of you on the next one.